Hi there, my name is Vic Veer. I'm an ENT consultant surgeon that works for the National Health Service in England. Today I want to tell you about nasal dilators. Nasal dilators open up your nasal passages so you can breathe better. So it's a bit like doing this. You put your nose like this, it looks rather unattractive, but if you do this, you can breathe a little bit better. Another way to do it is do this. You can just breathe a little bit better. And the idea is that those people who've got a twisted nose, or when you look up their nose, I might show a close up of this part of your nose collapses in like that. In those situations where your nose keeps collapsing in or your nose is twisted, and what you're trying to do is improve the passage of air through your nose, these nasal dilators, and I've got a few here, there's this one, Better Sleep, and AirMAX. What I'm going to do is go through these devices and show you the pros and cons of each of them. Now, the idea behind these nasal dilators is that you're trying to open up the nasal passages so you can breathe preferentially through your nose. Even though you can now suddenly breathe through your nose, it doesn't mean that you'll magically switch over to nasal breathing at night. Some people just carry on breathing through their mouth even though they can breathe through their nose. So you need to train yourself to breathe through your nose again. In some people that means wearing a chin strap, like a rubber band or something that keeps your mouth closed. We can use mouth tape to keep your mouth closed. And once your mouth is closed, a lot of people stop snoring because of that. I do have to caution you, however, if you have obstructive sleep apnea, forcing your mouth closed is probably not the best idea. If you remember, with sleep apnea, your oxygen levels do drop. And if your oxygen levels are dropping, and then someone tells you to keep your mouth taped closed, what you need is oxygen. And if you're closing up your mouth and trying desperately to breathe through your nose, that's not going to be enough. If your oxygen levels are dropping and you're going blue, you want to be able to breathe through your mouth. There is some research on this, and I'll show you some of that data now. So this paper in 2016, written by Carmaccio again, shows that internal nasal dilators seem to improve sleep apnea by very little. It decreased the AHI by 4.87, but if you think about it, if you're mild already, 4.87 really helps. There are also a lot of other papers around which show various benefits of nasal dilators. My take on all these papers put together is that nasal dilators improve your quality of life and have a variable effect on snoring and sleep apnea. And considering these devices are so cheap and accessible, my reasoning is why not try them? So what I'm going to do is start off with the Better Sleep device, and where you get a whole pot full of these nasal dilators. I'll show you a close-up of that as well. And for example, one of them is like this. It's a solid type ring or tube that gets inserted into your nose. So put this in a bit like this, and you have to push it back far enough so it pushes round there's a bit of cartilage that just runs along here. You need to make sure it goes around there. And then once it's right the way through, you should be able to breathe a little bit better. Like I said, it looks silly. You're not meant to walk around with it all day. But the idea is that when you go to sleep with your nose opened up like this, you can breathe a lot better. You don't need to use sprays and things like that. The bad thing about these things are that you have to remember to put them in every night, and in the morning you need to give them a clean because they get quite crusty, particularly if you look at the other side of the Better Sleep ones. These have got these sort of rings or holes in the middle of them, and when you put these up your nose, I'll show you this again, it works quite well. It's not perfect because it doesn't block up your nose quite as much, but a lot of patients say to me once they've used these types that you get a little bit of crust or basically bogey stuck inside here, and that causes sort of an icky sort of sensation. Oh God, that's very disgusting. You have to keep it clean, and that crusting is not particularly pleasant to have to deal with. Now I'm going to go on to the AirMAX device, which according to the box has nothing to do with snoring, but it's advertised on Amazon for snoring for some reason. And this is mainly for performance or sports and things like that. So you get two of these devices here, a small and a medium. The medium seems to work better for me, and it works a bit like a V that opens up your nose that way. If I put it in my nose like this is a little bit more fiddly than the other ones. Again, you have to get it past that cartilage, which is down the side here, and you'll feel that it just goes past, and once it's in the right place, it suddenly feels a bit more comfortable, and you can breathe a bit better. Now, I think, for me anyway, this feels like I can breathe a lot better through it. So these work quite well. It does seem to press a little bit in the middle here, because what you're doing is these flanges here are pushing outwards, but also pressing on the mid part of your septum, which is a bit sensitive. This is the most sensitive part of your nose. The side bits aren't so sensitive at all. Now the other product I want to show you is Mute, which has got lovely packaging, and they come out with 3 of these, small, medium and large. And the difference between these ones is that you can actually titrate or calibrate these as well. So you can customize the amount of spread you do with your nostrils. So you can make this bigger or smaller as you wish. Now for me, I think the medium works best for me. So you need to put it in a little bit at this sort of angle like that. I don't know if you can see that. And just push it in and then rotate it once you've got it underneath that cartilage. Now this is the most fiddly to get in the right position. But when it is in the right position, it gives you the best airway as far as I'm concerned. And it may be because I've customized it and pushed the lateral walls as much as I could. There is still that little bit of pressure on the septum, which at the moment isn't causing me much harm. It's not irritating me too much. But I know some patients later on have a little bit of an abrasion inside their nose. It can cause nosebleeds. I wouldn't try these sorts of dilators if you tend to get nosebleeds. But the airway from this Mute device, I think works the best for me. Sorry. Now there is a different type of nasal dilator, also known as a nasal splint. And instead of pushing something up your nose to do this to you, it sits outside and opens up this way. Let me show you. I think everyone pretty much uses Breathe Right. It opens up the nose, and I think a lot of sportsmen, footballers tend to use it as well. And so you get what looks like a bit of a plaster with a relatively firm middle part. And what you do is you're aiming for this part of your nose here, the depression on both sides. And this goes over the top of your nose. So aim it just about there. And what you're doing is opening it up like that. And you can see it does lift it up away from the midline partition without something going into your nose. So if you're prone to nosebleeds, for example, this would be a good one because it's nothing going up into your nose. The other problem with these strips is that you could be slightly allergic to the glue here. So some people wake up with a bit of redness across here. Sometimes if you use it for a long time, you get a little bit of a red mark across here because it's pressing on your nose, and they can cause some skin irritation to the bridge of your nose. So in conclusion, there are lots of different types of nasal dilators out there. It's sometimes worth trying these relatively inexpensive devices just to see if opening up your nasal airway helps your snoring. Anyone with a blocked nose will end up breathing through their mouth, say if they've got a cold or something, and most people then snore. Well, I hope you found that useful. The links to all of these products are in the description. If you have found one of these devices useful, do let me know in the comments section, and thank you very much for watching.